What would you do if the whole town decided your life didn't belong to you anymore? The winter wind cut through Montana territory like a blade when Sarah Winchester learned the settlers of Miller's Creek had finally run out of patience with her. Snow drifted along the wooden sidewalks as she pulled her mother's shawl tighter, trying to ignore the whispers snapping at her heels. She had lived with those whispers for years, but today felt different, heavier, like the valley itself was holding its breath. Elder Thompson stepped into her path. The tall, severe man looked as if the cold had no effect on him at all. His silver pocket watch swung like a pendulum, marking the moment her world shifted. "The council has decided," he said. "You will marry James Blackwood on Sunday." Sarah felt her breath hitch. "I don't understand." "It's been 10 years since your mother passed," he answered. "You've refused every match we've offered. The town can't have a young woman living alone. It breeds talk." She forced a polite smile, the kind her mother had taught her to wear. "I'm not ready to marry." Thompson's eyes hardened. "This is not a request. Your mother's home is now community property, unless you can produce the deed she claimed existed." Sarah's fingers touched the ring hanging from her neck, her mother's ring, the only thing she had left of her. "I won't marry him." Thompson leaned close, his voice colder than the wind. "Don't make us question your mother's influence on you. There are those who still wonder about her origins." Sarah swallowed the sting rising in her chest. Her mother's heritage had always been something the town feared but never spoke of openly. She nodded faintly, just to escape his stare. When he walked off, she ducked into the narrow alley between the general store and the blacksmith, pulling out her mother's ring. She traced the strange pattern in the metal, remembering her mother's last words. "The proof is in the—" But she never learned the rest. Her mother died before she could finish that sentence. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Sarah pretended to prepare for a wedding she never planned to have. She touched fabric she didn't see, answered questions she didn't hear. At dusk, she finally reached her small house on the edge of town, her last safe place. She lit a lamp and pulled her mother's old journal from its hiding spot. The pages were worn, filled with stories, warnings, and secrets. Then she found it, a line she'd missed before. "The settlers fear what they don't understand, but the land remembers, the lake remembers." Crow's Lake, her heart thudded. Her mother had walked there often before her death. Maybe the deed was hidden there. Maybe that was the clue. Sarah grabbed her bag, tucked the journal into her coat, and turned toward the door. A knock froze her hand. Martha Blackwood stood in the doorway with a basket of preserves and a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Every bride needs something sweet," she said, stepping into the house without waiting to be invited. Her gaze swept the room sharply. "James will make a fine husband, but you must learn to keep a proper home, not like your mother with her strange ways." Sarah's hands tightened around the basket. "My mother was a good woman." Martha's eyes narrowed. "Your mother made trouble, asking questions, stirring up old stories. Best not to follow her example." When Martha finally left, Sarah grabbed her bag again. Night had fallen. The wind carried a promise of snow. She slipped out the back door, her boots crunching softly over frost. Crow's Lake lay 2 miles north, but she didn't feel the cold, not with fear rising in her throat. She didn't reach the lake. In the council chamber behind the church, 12 men met in the firelit dark. Only 5 would be written in the official records. Elder Thompson stood before the flame, his shadow long and sharp. "Sarah Winchester has her mother's instincts," he said. "James believes she's gone to the lake." "We should have acted sooner," Reverend Shaw whispered. "We maintained order for 15 years, Thompson snapped. "We will not lose it now." He lifted a leather folder. "The governor approved our petition. Once she marries James, all her property transfers to him." "But if she refuses?" James Blackwood leaned forward. "Then we handle her the same way we handled her mother." The room fell silent with the weight of that sentence. Finally, Thompson spoke. "Tonight, no witnesses. Make it look like an accident, a young woman walking on thin ice." The men nodded grimly and filed out. Horses snorted in the cold as James and 4 others mounted up, their rifles glinting in the moonlight. They rode toward Crow's Lake. but someone else rode that night too. Luke McCall, wealthy cattle baron of the Double M Ranch, guided his horse along the snowy trail home from a long cattle drive. His foreman, Charlie Rodriguez, rode beside him. "Boss, why are we pushing through instead of camping?" Luke scanned the valley. Something felt wrong. "Ever get the feeling the land's trying to warn you?" Charlie chuckled. "Since when do you listen to the land?" Luke didn't smile. "Since a woman named Sarah Winchester saved my sister's life 10 years ago." They rode in silence until Thunder, Luke's massive bay stallion, snorted sharply, ears pricking forward. Lantern light flickered ahead, moving fast. "Hunting party," Charlie muttered. "No," Luke said. "A different kind of hunt." He spotted her then, a young woman running through the trees, her dark hair catching moonlight. Sarah Winchester. She stumbled toward the lake, breath coming in white bursts. Behind her, 6 riders spread wide, pushing her toward the frozen water. Luke's jaw tightened. "Charlie, take the men to the north pasture." "Boss." "Now." Charlie wheeled his horse and disappeared into the dark. Luke slipped into the shadows, Thunder moving silently beneath him. When Sarah's boots hit the ice, she fell hard. James and his men caught her, dragging her upright. "Your mother made the same choice," James sneered, running to the lake looking for proof that never existed. "She found it," Sarah said. "That's why you killed her." James struck her. The crack echoed across the lake. "Get her to the deep part," Thompson ordered from the shore. The ice groaned beneath them. A single gunshot shattered the night. "That's far enough." A voice deep as thunder. Sarah turned her head. A rider stood at the lake's edge, rifle leveled, moonlight catching his hard jaw and winter-cold eyes. Luke McCall. He stepped onto the ice. "Murder's everybody's business," he said, and the night exploded into chaos. Sarah felt the world tilt beneath her as the ice groaned under the weight of the men dragging her. Every breath came sharp, cold, and painful. James Blackwood's grip tightened like iron around her arm. Elder Thompson stood on the shoreline, his face unreadable in the moonlight. Then Luke McCall stepped farther onto the lake, rifle steady, voice cold as the Montana wind. "Let her go." James sneered. "You're outnumbered, McCall. Walk away. This is town business." Luke took another step. The ice cracked under his boot, but he didn't flinch. His eyes never left Sarah. "Murder isn't town business," he said. "It's coward business." James shoved Sarah behind him. "Shoot him!" But the other men hesitated. Everyone in the territory knew Luke McCall. Wealthy, respected, feared. A man with 20 loyal cowboys who could ride into town by sunrise if he gave the word. Thompson's voice carried across the frozen water. "We don't want trouble with you, McCall." "You've already got trouble," Luke said. "The kind that doesn't go away." James yanked his revolver free. Everything happened in a heartbeat. Sarah tried to twist away. Luke fired first. James's bullet went wide, skidding across the ice. Luke's shot hit one of the men dragging Sarah, sending him spinning to the ground. Another man slipped, crashing down with a cry. The ice groaned, louder this time. "Shoot him!" James roared. Gunfire erupted. Sparks exploded off the frozen surface. Sarah dropped to her knees as bullets screamed overhead. Then she heard it, the deep, splitting crack. The ice opened beneath her. Cold swallowed her in an instant. The lake dragged her under, stealing her breath, her voice, her strength. Darkness spun around her as icy water clawed at her limbs. Her mother's journal slipped from her coat, sinking into the black below. She reached for it, fingers numb and useless. Her lungs burned. The surface was gone. Up and down blurred together. Then something grabbed her coat. A hand. Strong. Unyielding. She was yanked upward. Her head burst through the surface as she gasped desperately for air. Luke's arm was locked around her waist, his teeth gritted against the cold, slicing into both of them. "I've got you," he barked. "Hold on!" He kicked toward solid ice as gunshots rang out above them. James and his men scrambled to escape the cracking lake, slipping and falling as chaos took hold. "Pull yourself up." Luke commanded. Sarah tried, but her limbs barely responded. Luke heaved her onto solid ice, then dragged himself out beside her. He ripped off his heavy coat and wrapped it around her shivering body. On the shore, Thompson shouted, "We're not finished with this, McCall. The council will hear about tonight." "Tell them everything," Luke growled back. "Tell them Luke McCall is watching." James and his riders bolted, dragging their wounded with them. Lanterns bobbed wildly as they disappeared into the trees. Luke lifted Sarah into his arms as if she weighed nothing. Her teeth chattered so hard she couldn't speak. "You're safe now," he told her. "I won't let them touch you again." Her voice trembled weakly. "My mother's journal, the proof it's gone." "Maybe not the only copy," Luke said. Before she could ask what he meant, hooves thundered toward them. Charlie appeared with several of Luke's cowboys, eyes wide at the sight of Sarah. "Boss, we heard shots. Madre de Dios, is she all right?" "She's freezing," Luke said. "We're taking her back to the Double M." Sarah tried to sit up, but Luke held her steady. "They'll come after me again," she whispered. "They'll try," Luke said, "but they'll have to go through me." Charlie leaned close. "Boss, should we send men into town?" "Not yet," Luke said. "Just watch the church. No one goes in or out." Sarah lifted her head slightly. "The church. The council hides proof there." Luke's jaw tightened. "Then we'll find it. But first, we keep you alive." She managed a weak nod. Luke secured her on Thunder's back, mounting behind her so she lay against his chest, wrapped tightly in his coat. His warmth and strength steadied her shaking body. "Can you ride?" he asked. "Try to stop me," she whispered. He smiled, a low, approving sound. "Ma'am, I don't think anyone could stop you." Luke raised his voice. "Mount up. We're riding to the Double M." They galloped away from Crow's Lake, hooves pounding through snow and darkness. Sarah looked back once. Lanterns flickered around the hole in the ice, where her mother had died and where she had almost joined her. Luke tightened his arms around her. "They killed her there," Sarah whispered. "My mother found something, and they drowned her to keep it secret." "And they tried to do the same to you tonight," Luke said, voice hard. "But they won't get another chance." Sarah reached instinctively for her mother's journal, only to feel the empty space where it had been. "But I lost the proof." Luke's breath warmed her ear. "Then we make new proof," he said, "together." They thundered through the valley toward the Double M Ranch, lanterns glowing in the distance where Luke's men waited. For the first time in years, Sarah felt something besides fear. She felt hope. The Double M Ranch rose out of the darkness like a safe harbor after a storm. Warm light spilled from every window. Smoke curled upward from the chimneys. Ranch hands rushed through the yard with blankets and lanterns as Luke rode in fast, Sarah trembling in his arms. "Maria!" Luke called as he dismounted. "We need hot water and blankets now." The front door burst open. Maria Rodriguez, stout and quick, hurried down the porch steps. Her face softened with worry when she saw Sarah's pale skin and shaking hands. "Inside, rapido!" Maria commanded, taking charge instantly. Luke carried Sarah through the big wooden door. The warmth hit her like a wave. Maria directed him up the stairs, into a room where a copper tub steamed near the fireplace. "Hand her to me," Maria said, but when Luke tried to lay Sarah down, her hand shot out and clutched his coat. "Don't leave." He stopped instantly. "I'm not going anywhere." Maria nodded approvingly. "Good, she trusts you. Stay." Maria helped ease Sarah into the warm bath. Pain shot through her limbs as heat returned to frozen skin, but she bit back a cry. Luke knelt beside the tub, sleeves rolled up, soaking wet from the lake. "Keep breathing," he said softly. "You're safe now." When the shivering finally eased, Maria brought a warm robe and helped Sarah dress in clean clothes. Luke waited by the door, eyes never leaving her. "Better?" he asked. "A little. Come downstairs. We need to talk." They went to the study where a fire roared in the hearth. 2 bowls of hot soup sat waiting on a low table. Sarah sank into a chair, wrapping her hands around the warm bowl. Luke sat across from her, studying her face with quiet concern. "Why did you help me?" she asked. "I knew your mother," Luke answered. "And I know this valley. I've been watching Miller's Creek for years. Something's always felt wrong about that town." He hesitated. "And my sister, she died there, just like your mother." Sarah froze. "The lake?" Luke nodded. "Same story, same counsel, same lies." Her breath caught. "I'm so sorry." Luke leaned forward. "You're not alone in this, Sarah. I want to help you finish what she started." She touched the empty space where her mother's journal should have been. "But I lost the proof. Maybe the deed wasn't the only thing your mother left." Quote. Sarah reached into her robe and pulled out her mother's medicine pouch. She hadn't realized until now it had survived the lake. She opened it carefully. Inside were beads, stitched in a pattern she knew by heart. But tonight, the firelight revealed something new. The same shapes repeated in her mother's ring, markings that might be a map or code. "My mother hid the truth in her beadwork," Sarah whispered. "She knew they'd search for papers." Luke's eyes narrowed. "Then, this is more valuable than any deed." Before they could study it further, heavy footsteps thundered up the porch. Charlie burst in, snow-dusted and breathless. "Boss, riders coming from town. Thompson and the council. At least 15 men." Sarah stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. "They're coming for me." Luke grabbed his rifle. "They won't take a single step inside this house." They moved to the front porch. Luke's cowboys lined up behind them, rifles ready. Snow swirled across the yard as torches flickered in the distance. The council rode into view. Thompson at the front, his face twisted with rage. "McCall!" Thompson shouted. "Send out the Winchester woman and we'll settle this peacefully." Luke stepped forward, Sarah beside him. "That's close enough." James Blackwood rode up behind Thompson, a bandage under his collar. "She's a murderer," James yelled. "Just like her mother." Luke's laugh was sharp and cold. "Funny, I remember your story changing a dozen times." "We have proof," Thompson snapped. "I have proof too," Luke said. Charlie handed him a stack of documents. Luke held them up. "My sister left evidence before she died. Letters, bank records, land transfers. Everything the council tried to bury." Sarah stepped forward. "And I have something more." She lifted her mother's medicine pouch. "My mother wove the truth into these beads. Names, dates, places, everything you stole from my family and from the native people before us." A murmur rippled through Thompson's men. Doubt, fear, lies. James spat. "Funny," Sarah said coldly. "That's what your father said before he died mysteriously too." James blanched. Thompson's confidence cracked. "What do you want?" "Justice," Sarah said. "Truth, and the end of your control over Miller's Creek." Luke raised his voice to the ranch hands. "Let them go. They're done here." One by one, Thompson's riders turned away. They weren't willing to die for a council drowning in lies. Even James hesitated, until Thompson snarled at him to follow. When they finally disappeared into the night, the porch fell silent. Sarah exhaled shakily. "They'll be back." Luke put a hand on her shoulder. "Let them come. They won't win." She turned toward him. "What happens now?" Luke hesitated only a moment before pulling a small silver ring from his pocket. "My mother's," he said quietly. "Marriage would protect you legally. And combine our lands. But more than that." He took her hand. "I want to stand beside you in this fight. Not just tonight, but for the rest of my life." Sarah stared at him, heart pounding. In one night he had saved her life, stood against an entire town for her, believed her when no one else had. She felt something warm and fierce rise inside her. "Yes," she whispered, "I'll marry you." Luke slid the ring onto her finger, a perfect fit. He pulled her close, and she felt safe, truly safe, for the first time in years. But before either of them could speak again, Charlie burst back onto the porch. "Boss, Thompson escaped town, and he's riding toward Crow's Lake with hired guns." Sarah's blood ran cold. "He's not giving up," Luke said. "He's making a last stand." Sarah steadied herself, her mother's medicine pouch clutched in her hand. "Then we finish this," she said. "Together." Luke nodded. "Together." And as they rode out into the winter night with Luke's cowboys at their side, heading toward the same lake where Sarah's mother had died, Sarah Winchester knew one thing for certain. This time, the truth would not drown. This time, justice was riding with them.